My name is TaleOfTheToaster, and I have a problem. My problem is the Nintendo 3DS. For you see, the console released when I was in my final 2 years of school, which was the perfect sweet spot of I'm finally starting to get money of my own now, and also I'm still completely eligible for Christmas gifts from just about every area of the family, which I always wanted to be. Nintendo 3DS games. I went through all of college and university without doing anything particularly exciting, and I would waste all my money on Nintendo 3DS games. And now we're here, where it sits isolated at my mum's house, and every time she does the dusting, it gets pushed back further and further into disarray in the thingy. And I just don't live anywhere near here, so I'm never able to fix it. And I just see this thing once every couple of months, and I'm reminded of what I've done. Having acquired a few more unorganised 3DS games and just the state that it's currently in, it's time to reorganise it all. Ha 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 ha. And if I'm going to do such a strenuous job, then I might as well make a YouTube video out of it showing off my silly little Nintendo 3DS collection. And I'm going to force myself to say something about every single one of them. See you in a bit. You know, somehow, like, this is an armchair. This is the 3DS collection. It looks even worse in perspective like this. I really don't know how it got to this point, but I mean, well, I do. I love the 3DS. It is my favourite console of all time. Pretty much all of my favourite games are on this system. And yeah, at least when the Nintendo Switch came out, I basically stopped buying Nintendo games at that point. This is a relic of a period of time, my absolute 3DS obsession, and I'll just continue to feed this until it's complete. It pretty much is a complete collection of every Nintendo published 3DS game, at least the ones with that logo on the sleeve. There's like one or two exceptions, but we'll get to those. But let's just talk about them all, because there's a lot. Smash 3DS. This was my favourite game of all time until the Wii U one came out, and then until Smash Ultimate came out. Mario 3D Land. This came out on the same day as Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword was a lot better. Mario Maker without online. LOL. I insisted upon owning this just because it has a yellow box. Bring back the Woohoo Island courses in the Booster Course Pass, please. The moment where even the Mario and Luigi series couldn't have creative freedom anymore. Actually allowed to have original characters in it, but still worse than the obvious peak of the series, and no one is denying it. This one was actually allowed to have box art, however. I could say words about this game, but it doesn't deserve it. This is the first game in the video that I haven't played. There's a lot. I didn't play this one either. Should I have? I did play this one. I shouldn't have. There is actually a standalone Tale of the Toaster video on this game. See if you can find it. This is sealed because it arrived 1 day late, so Nintendo gave me a download code for it as well. Mario Tennis Power Tour on the Game Boy Advance is in my top 10 favourite games of all time. This isn't. You are going to Brazil. Yo, England reference. Did you even know this physically exists? Well, how about Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move plus Mario vs. Donkey Kong Minis March Again download codes? Low-key, people should remember this exists. This one was actually cool. Getting a re-release on the Switch was a re-release on the 3DS in 2016. Speaking of games that released way too late, still speaking of Wii U games, I played this on a flight to Las Vegas next to Suko G, the YouTuber who kazoos everything. Tried playing it in college and I was too bad at video games. I was never actually able to finish it. I got to the water temple, but I still just love it anyway. Well, this is the first 3DS game that I actually sunk time into. It was my first proper Zelda, first proper 3DS game, basically. What was my actual first 3DS game? We'll get to that. After all this time and collecting all this, I still don't own an English copy of A Link Between Worlds. And when I say English, I mean UK PAL region. Yeah. But at least I got a Triforce Heroes. This has got a green thing because it was a collector's edition, I guess. Why did I get the collector's edition? What was even in it? This one was also part of a bundle. Hope I've not lost the rest. I can't blame them for reacting that badly to it, but it looks fine. Yo, we're on the second row. That means I need to put it over here. Why did I bother to play through Pokemon Sun for a second time? And that's not to say I don't like Pokemon Sun, because I did. The re-release just didn't change anything. Well, I mean, it changed a few things, but you've played it. You don't need me to explain. This is still the coolest title for a Pokemon game in existence. It's literally called Pokemon X. Pokemon Y sounds a lot less cool, and yet this was the one I actually played. Uh-oh, it's 2024, so now we've fully embraced the fact these aren't actually that bad of remakes. Still worse than Emerald, though. The more in-depth version of that statement is that these games should have been a remake of Emerald, where it could actually have double battles, but at least it added Looker. Played this as a full-fledged adult, which made it feel really weird when the first 10 hours of the game are just set in a school trying to escape your mum and dad's house. It was never going to live up to Explorers of Sky, let's face it, but was it actually okay? Maybe we just held our expectations too high. Oh boy, a freemium game gets a physical release. It's a good job they can't do that with Pokemon mobile games now. This was the first Pokemon game to release on the Nintendo 3DS. It's not very fun. I played this to completion and I really like the chapter on the boat where they're doing the auction, but at the same time, if I enjoyed it that much, I would have bought the sequel. Nothing you do can make me good at art. I specifically have to draw attention to the sleeve here to say, yep, this is a different game to actual Animal Crossing New Leaf, which I got as a digital download as a reward for buying so many Wii U games or something, so I don't even actually own the cartridge here, but I do have it for Welcome Amiibo, so it still counts. I very nearly did a master's at Teesside University in home design, and I didn't even play this for more than 2 hours. Low-key, banger game! Kirby Planet Robobot, actually really good. Not as good as Forgotten Land on the Switch, but I'm with it. Unfortunately, Triple Deluxe doesn't make you pilot a big robot. Can't look at this game without thinking of Alexander Greensmith. Fortnite. I had thoroughly played Lilac Wars on the Wii Virtual Console before this, and I was really excited for the remake, and it was a remake. This is one of the 3 Fire Emblem games I ever actually tried to play. It also highlights one of the only gaps in my Nintendo published collection, because there was a third version of this game, sort of. It was mainly online DLC, but it also got a physical release in the form of a 3-pack, which instead of being called Fire Emblem Fates Revelations, there is just a 3DS game called Fire Emblem Fates with boring grey text, which has all 3 of them in it. Well, I guess I technically still need it. This is a Fire Emblem game that I didn't play, and maybe if I played this instead of Fates, my life would be very different right now. This is also a Fire Emblem game that I didn't play. I tried playing Ike's game on the Wii, which is famously the hardest in the series, and I only got an hour in, and I tried playing Sacred Stones on the GBA without having internet, so I couldn't get more than an hour in without guidance from the web either. And yet I did play this for about 2.5 hours. I can only play Fire Emblem games that aren't in, like, the good echelon. This exists so that you can't call Pikmin a flawless series. Masahiro Sakurai is a very talented game director. I got this after watching the Chugga Conroy Let's Play in full, so I definitely didn't need to beat it, but yeah, I sure found it easier to watch this game instead of actually trying to play it. Out of the past, like, 20 games we've looked at, I probably have the most hours in this. This exact copy of Tomodachi Life belonged to my friend Alexander Greensmith, and all of his Miis are still in it. Now, if I actually had a debit card at the time this released on the Wii U, I probably would have played it, but it just came a little too early. This should have been the first game I ever played on the 3DS. I love Island Flyover in Wii Sports Resort. It's pretty much one of my favourite games by itself. Why did I not play Pilot Wings Resort then? I was just told it didn't really add anything new, but it didn't need to. It would have been on a brand new console and been in 3D, and I just should have done it. We'll see later what I actually picked for my 3DS launch title. I even tried to play it, man. What was I thinking? Yeah, they sure gave him a physical release only for the third Dylan game. This is probably the second most I've ever paid for a 3DS game. This cost somewhere between £50 and £60. It's really rare, but it didn't get a physical release in North America and just had a very limited release in Europe, so that's why. Recently went on a bit of a binge watching YouTube videos about Nintendo's merchandise. You should look it up. I am, by the way, on the third row now, and unfortunately 2 of my Nintendo's Plus Cats games are only in the Nintendo Selects thingy. They don't have the emblem down the side, so you can't tell, but when these games first released, you could also buy them with cardboard sleeves with nice little paw print cutouts. And I found one of them in a CEX literally a week after I got this, and I wish I'd just bought it again. He's mega fuming! He's giga mega fuming! I actually have friends now who played this. Couldn't have been me. And yet I'm very glad to hear that the friends of mine who played this game growing up actually really like it. It's good to validate that these games did what they set out to do. I'm not sure we needed 3 of them, though. I said nothing you can do will make me good at art. I do all my own thumbnails. Can you tell? I also have an Australian copy of this game because I didn't realise I was buying an Australian one, and it has like a logo and a thinner case, but for £7 I really should have paid more attention. It's in 3D! This front cover alone is why I wanted Steel Diver. I paid full price for this game. It now sells for about £2. If a game releases both on the Switch and the 3DS, I'm getting it for the 3DS. Picross 3D, round 2! Where's round 1? On the DS. It's a football game! Which means I needed a box for it even though it's a download code. The opening song to this game actually slaps. It's an RPG, I was definitely going to play that. Yeah, it's sealed, why you ask? This is also another very dishonest entry in my collection because I do not have the cartridge. For the record, I was given that Bravely Default case. I didn't buy an empty case for no reason. Here's Ever Oasis. This ended up having my favourite assist trophy in Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is the funniest game I own, and I swear to God I'm going to make a standalone video on it at some point. Did you know that I work for Legoland? This is the rarest and perhaps silliest game in the entire collection. Nintendo 3DS Guide Louvre allowed you to actually use a provided or your own Nintendo 3DS at the Louvre art gallery in France and use it to view information about the artwork and look at it in 3D. It's got its own, I'm trying to wave it around the light so you can see that the front cover is textured like a painting. It's really cool, actually. I got this on Amazon France and ordered it to my own country of Royaume-Uni. There are rarer versions of this that exist. This is the French language one. If you got a copy of this at the Louvre in around 2011 or 2012, you could also get an English copy or a different language, but I suspect even a 3DS collector as nuts as me will never own one of those. This is the only game that Level 5 ever published for the 3DS outside of Japan. Every other one was published by Nintendo. But here's a normal Professor Layton. I didn't play this one. I did try to play Miracle Mask, I just never finished it. The only Layton game I ever did beat was the one with Phoenix Wright in it. I'd never played an Ace Attorney game before I played this, and I'd never beaten a Layton. I then proceeded to beat every Ace Attorney ever, and I've still never beaten a Layton game. I think I kept the price tags on this just as a punishment, so that I know what I had to go through. Jump scare in 3, 2, 1. When Yokai Watch 2 did a Pokemon Platinum and released a third version. This is the version of Yokai Watch 2 I actually played. I have not played Yokai Watch 3 yet, but I do want to play it on stream. That's why I paid that unbelievable amount of money for it. But Yokai Watch 2, I'm actually a fan. I really liked this game. Not enough to play it twice, though. The original Yokai Watch is just fine. I think the episodic structure kind of hurt it a bit and it needed more of an overarching story. Here's one of the only other remaining gaps in my collection. I have Yokai Watch Blaster's White Dog Squad, but this also has an alternate version called Red Cat Corpse or Squad. I don't know. Either way, I don't own it. What the hell is Inazuma 11? Alright, fine, I'll talk about Inazuma 11. Yes, this is the game that my entire channel is about. Maybe you should go and watch one of my full Let's Plays of games such as Inazuma 11 Go Light. But if you want to Go Shadow, you'll have to watch my exclusive content video on it instead. Team Ogre Attacks was only officially released through the Nintendo UK online store. It did drift onto Amazon and eBay anyway. I expected this to become a really, really rare game, and it actually low-key didn't. It's hard to find, especially in shops, but you can get it for double digits. I thought this was going to be Yokai Watch 3 levels of expensive at this point in time, and it actually isn't. It's certainly not cheap, though. If you want to buy Inazuma 11 games cheaply, you have to go to Spain or Portugal. If you're trying to get them in the UK, yeah, it's going to cost you at least a little bit. Bomb Blast is the one that I actually played. This is still the same copy that I've had since the game's release date. Although I saw it at Eurogamer before I was able to get home and pick up my physical copy from Amazon, so I just had to kind of stare at the game without being able to play it. If you expected to see Inazuma 11 Go Galaxy in this section, well, wait for the Japanese section, I guess. But Little Battler's Experience, I'm so sad we didn't get the sequels. This is sealed because, same story as Mario Golf, it arrived late from the Nintendo UK online store, so they gave me a download code. But I also kind of own another one. It's not here in this pile, it's at my new place so that I can record videos on it at some point. But in Spain, this game was released with a sticker right up here saying, "From the makers of Inazuma 11 Go." And because it was €6, I bought it again just because, not even a sticker, it's printed in the top right. Anyway, this is not about Inazuma 11. I actually really love this game in its own right, and I will eventually make a Let's Play of it, I'm sure. This is a level 5 game that I won't be making a Let's Play of, but the fact that it's specifically an English UK copy of Fantasy Life means that it has better dubbing than the US one did. So this game was made by the original developers of Harvest Moon, as you can tell by the Harvest Moon cow in the middle. It is published by Nintendo and has a different brand to make it a different series to the official Harvest Moon that carried on without them. But it's still celebrating 20 years of Harvest Moon, and it's just you got to make your mind up, fellas. But this was the first one anyway. They get to be in this part of the video because they were published by Nintendo, but the actual Harvest Moon games will come later. Do you remember when they had to recall Cooking Mama games for the Switch? Anyway, this one was genuinely published by Nintendo. None of the DS games were. Only Cooking Mama 5 is a second-party Nintendo game. So is Monster Hunter Stories, which was the only Monster Hunter published by Nintendo, and that means I have to store it separately to the rest of the Monster Hunter games. Rah! The Dragon Quest games were also published by Nintendo, but at least none of them were published by Square Enix, so I can keep them together. That said, though, Dragon Quest VIII also counts as a level 5 game, so it would be nice to keep them somewhat close together. This one wasn't, though, and also this hero wasn't in Smash like the last one. Yeah, Nintendo published a Disney game. I hope Sora gets into Super Smash Bros. What's that? Sora's already in Super Smash Bros. Ah, I don't believe you. Phonics Fun with Biff, Chip and Kipper. You either know who Biff, Chip and Kipper are, or you don't. But they got 3 separate releases on the 3DS, and they were all released on the same day for about £20, and they just look like the same thing. They're obviously extremely cheap, and yes, one of them is unsealed because I did actually play it for 20 minutes just to see what it would look like. I don't know, I at least knew who Biff, Chip and Kipper were. Scribblenauts Unlimited is very awkward because it has 2 publishers on the side. But now the Nintendo games are over. Now it's time for everything else. I Let's Played this game. I wish we could have started on something a bit more dull so that I don't have to also talk about Lost World. But yeah, I have an entire video on specifically the 3DS version of this game. And I beat Sonic Generations on the 3DS. I never got to play the console one though, and that is a shame. Also never got to play Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. That's not a shame. What is a real shame is that I genuinely played and beat the Wii U game. It was depressing. Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Who's the All-Stars? Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph, man. So my 3DS launch title, it wasn't Pilot Wings Resort. It was Super Monkey Ball 3D. And that doesn't sound that bad, because the Super Monkey Ball series was very good in its first couple of entries, and I thought, yeah, that sounds like a fun way to open up the 3DS. I can live without Pilot Wings Resort. I've already played Wii Sports Resort. Yeah, Super Monkey Ball 3D, it wasn't all that, and I just know I would have had a lot more fun with Pilot Wings. I probably would have had less fun with Shinobi if that was released at the time. This is one of my favourite games on the console. Obviously, my actual favourites are these. I love Inazuma 11, but I really, really love Rhythm Thief. If I could make one recommendation in this video that's not play Little Battler's Experience or Inazuma 11, which you've already played if you're on this channel, play Rhythm Thief. I bloody adore it. Crush 3D doesn't quite inspire the same vibes. I don't own Persona 5, but I sure have Persona Q2 New Cinema Labyrinth. The only Persona game I ever attempted to play was 4 Golden, the one with him in it, but I'm just very bad at time management, so I didn't get very far. And Persona 5, I definitely would have been interested if it released on the Switch maybe a couple years earlier than it actually did. This box art goes insane, and so does the text on the side. I'm also a big Mystery Dungeon fan because of Pokemon, but this one was kinda boring. I couldn't even beat the demo. Step aside, Inazuma 11, we've got PS 2011 with Lionel Messi's longest hair I've ever seen. Why have Professor Layton when you can have Dr. Lautrick and the Forgotten Knights? Using the touchscreen to perform super combos was very funny. I could be toxic online without knowing anything about how to actually play the game. Anyway, here's the rest of the Monster Hunter games. I could move stories down to here or move these games up, but I just don't want to separate the publishers when it looks like this. Still had to do it with that one though. Anyway, yeah, there's the rest of the Monster Hunter games. I've definitely played them. Can't you tell I'm such a big Monster Hunter fan? Unfortunately, I am not lucky enough to own one of the copies of the game that has the misspelled binder, but if you know about the misspelled binder, you're also a nerd. There's also another Resident Evil game on the 3DS. Yeah, man. When Final Fantasy Explorers was revealed for the 3DS in a Nintendo Direct, I thought, maybe Cloud can be in Super Smash Bros. After all. He was revealed in the same Direct. The Theat rhythms, though? Yeah, I played these. I've never beaten an actual Final Fantasy other than Chocobo Tales on the DS, but getting to play the music like this? Yeah, please. I even played the Kingdom Hearts one on the Switch for a bit, even though I did mainly just buy that to unlock that one song in Smash Ultimate. Well, speaking of Kingdom Hearts, watch out, fellas, it's Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures 2! And the worst box art on the console. What was this? Anyway, here's Pac-Man as slightly more intended. There is another Pac-Man game on the 3DS. It's like Pac-Man plus Galaga Dimensions or something, but I don't own it. Instead of getting a PEGI 12, this game gets a BBFC 12 because it contains the entire movie. Kazuya Mishima wins. Surprisingly, this is a game that I did play to completion, and I love it. Segata Sanshiro, you may not have gotten to be on the box, but I appreciated his presence thoroughly. I like Sakura Wars for its home games. I like Ace Attorney, obviously. Kazuya Mishima wins. Ha ha ha. And I've never played a Yakuza game, but Kazuma Kiryu was like my favourite guy to play as in Project Cross Zone 2. With Segata Sanshiro in support, of course. That does not mean that I beat Project Cross Zone 1, but I think playing one of them was probably enough. Rayman 3D was a mistake because they didn't put a publisher on the side. Rayman Origins was a mistake because they messed up putting the publisher on the side. Rabbids 3D reveals how the publisher is actually meant to look on the side. You see, they got it consistent for the Rabbids games, just not the Rayman ones. Asphalt DS was one of the first games I ever owned for the original Nintendo DS, so I guess I also needed Asphalt 3D. This game allowed me to redeem its My Nintendo Club points about 6 years before I ever owned a copy, just because a friend on the internet gave me the code. Get it? He's called James Noir because he solves crimes. Yeah, man, now we make it to games published by D3 Publisher, even though it's owned by Bandai Namco anyway. Sega Bass Fishing, except not Sega. Whoa, we've made it to Peak! This technically doesn't have a publisher on the side either, and it's really, really thin because this game was only released physically in North America. It never got a European release, but I still had to get the whole special edition anyway. And yes, this is the console that I actually played Zero Time Dilemma on. Not the Vita, not the PS4, but I am such a Zero Escape fan. And at least it says the series there. I should have got the watch that came with this, because that was the whole thing. I don't want to get it out. It's behind my Nagito. That watch that you can barely see was what came with my copy of Zero Time Dilemma Special Edition. Oh, I needed to stand up. But here is the game that actually got me into Zero Escape. I played 999 afterwards. Obviously, that's a DS game, so it's not here. But this is in my top 10 games of all time. I am a huge Virtue's Last Reward fan, and I'm very relieved that I don't have to push people that hard to play it anymore, because I only played this game because one of my friends in Ireland spent about 2 years trying to convince me to play it, and I eventually did, and then I spent about 2 years trying to convince everyone else. But now people actually know what Zero Escape is, and that's very good. But I'm sure more people have heard of Beyblade. Yeah, Beyblade Evolution, let it rip, man. Shout outs to the Trobal Nation. Yeah, man, Skylanders Giants, let it NFC Toys. This is the one that says Spyro on it. You'll buy the game if it's got Spyro mentioned. Can't talk about Harvest Moon without first talking about Hometown Story from the family of Harvest Moon. That means it's not like Story of Seasons where it's the original developers. This one is still officially connected to Harvest Moon. It's just not Harvest Moon. This one, however, is, but it's been so long since the original developers of Harvest Moon were involved that I don't think anybody cared. This one, though, I definitely remember all of my Harvest Moon mutuals were still into. I'm glad I've got myself a new beginning because the box art looks very nice. That same Harvest Moon mutual was also the reason I got Finding Nemo Escape to the Big Blue, and that is the only explanation I have as to why those two games are back-to-back in my collection. Cars 2, meanwhile, I got because of Killian Valentine. Shoutouts to that guy. I bought Horrid Henry, the Good, the Bad and the Bugly because I wanted it to be a Tale of the Toaster mini Let's Play, back when I used to do mini LPs between my main ones. As it turned out, this was just too boring. There was one more Harvest Moon game on the 3DS, by the way. I just don't have it. Bit Trip. This is one of the furthest games down the collection to be officially referenced in Smash Bros. And this is one of the furthest games down the list that I've actually beaten. In fact, it might be the last. But Gabrielle's Ghostly Groove 3D, it was a very tepid rhythm game, but it was charming. I liked it. Whoa, Dual Pen Sports has a whole thing, because I've only got one hand, but it came with a stylus basically, because it tried to make you use two styluses at once, even though the 3DS is not compatible with multiple touch inputs. But yeah, it was made by Bandai before the merge with Bandai Namco. I have this because it was published by Ubisoft, and it's ended up somewhere completely out of the way. Oh, I do own Pac-Man and Galaga Dimensions. I just hadn't put it in the right place yet. Here's another game that's in the wrong place because I hadn't actually bought it yet. I was convinced for so long that there was a Sega 3D Classics Collection 2, because does this run not look like the number 2? I couldn't believe it when it only said Sega 3D Classics Collection, because I'm like, where's the 2? That was the 2 box art. No, there was no 2, apart from maybe a download exclusive. Look, it's like Mario Party 1, which has a 3 right next to it on the dice. Tetris. There is also a 3DS game called Tetris Ultimate, which I think was published by Nintendo, whereas Tetris 1 was published by Tetris. So when I bought this, it came with Tetris Ultimate. And the manual for Tetris Ultimate, I had to get the cartridge separately because I don't own Tetris Ultimate's box, and I used to only own the box for Tetris. I'll complete this mishmash eventually. Wow, that's not Little Battler's experience. Here's a good game. 59 minutes into the recording, I get my second 3DS game of all time, and also the first game I ever got that was, like, actually age-restricted beyond my actual age. I was 15, by the way. This, unironically, has been fully Let's Played by TaleOfTheToaster. It took 2 videos. Go look it up if you don't believe me. We'll not be making a Doodle Jump series. Yeah, I got a Mensa Academy game because it's published by Square Enix and has the nicest 3DS colour pictured on the box. This game is actually the last one on the list to be referenced in Super Smash Bros. It's Coldcept Revolt. Luv Me Buddies Wonderland will never be referenced by anything, and I bought this game just to make someone laugh when I was in a shop with them. They didn't think I'd actually buy it. I like Scrabble, and this is close. I bought this for the Wii U, genuinely really hoping it was going to be good. I got the collector's edition for it and everything, and it just wasn't. This was £2 as well, probably. Stand up if you love football. Wayne Rooney, FIFA 12. Some of my friends are massive Dynasty Warriors fans, so I had to do this for them. It's technically connected to Inazuma 11 if you think about the fact that Liu Bei's in it. Or one of them anyway. Dragon Ball Z Extreme Butoden. This is a lot of characters, and if I'd actually watched Dragon Ball, I'd probably find that really cool. This is probably the 3rd most expensive game in the whole collection. My favourite song is Electric Angel. And the last English game before I get to the Japanese ones is Hakuoki. We had to save it for last. Hakuoki, I've done, 6 live streams on it now and genuinely made some close friends through it. That wasn't the point when I bought the game. I just bought it because Soji Okuta from Inazuma 11. It's the Shinsengumi. It's funny. It just says Shinsengumi on it. So I'm like, haha, Inazuma 11 reference. Then I ended up just forming an entire streaming community around it. It's like, huh? That wasn't the plan. But that's pretty much it. Let's just take a gimmick-free look at the rest, because these Pokemon download codes are also 3DS because it says 3DS on them. They're made to emulate how the Game Boy boxes used to look, and they are indeed made out of cardboard. I got the Crystal one at the time and actually played through it on my 3DS, whereas these two I got a little bit later just for the sake of owning them. But there is one annoying thing. So on display, Crystal has Chikorita. Silver has Elekid. Okay, I was expecting it to be like Totodile or Cyndaquil. Pokemon Gold also has Elekid. Why do two of them have Elekid and then Crystal's got Chikorita? It doesn't even have the others on it. Like, there's Chikorita. Where's Cyndaquil? Where's Totodile? No, just Chikorita. Yeah, man. And finally, the Japanese 3DS games. Here's Inazuma 11 Go Light again. It's sparklier than it is in the English one. It is at this point where I would show you my copies of Inazuma 11 Go Galaxy, Big Bang, and Supernova, and Inazuma 11 1, 2, 3. But again, I'm an Inazuma 11 YouTuber. I actually need these games, therefore they're at my actual place of residence where I live instead of at my mum's. So unfortunately they're not here. I'll try and get you a clip at the end. But what I do have for the level 5 fans still here, Little Battlers Experience strikes again. The logo's completely different in Japanese. Let's just show kind of how these look. Japanese games are a lot thinner, but they also have more Danball Senki games. I should be saying Danball Senki now instead of Little Battlers Experience. This is the second one, and the one that actually has the crossover movie with this game. Well, both of them. Yeah, this is where Vanyamano's design in the Inazuma series actually comes from, and I would have played this to completion if they actually bothered to translate it and release it. If there is ever a fan patch of this game, though, I would genuinely still take the time to play it. Gonna be even longer, though, before I get to play Danball Senki Wars. Yeah, it's weird. They had Danball Senki, then Danball Senki Woo, and then Danball Senki Wars, so you can't even abbreviate them all properly. I think this one was a PSP game first, and it's got brand new protagonists at this point. All of Vanyamano and that lot have all grown up now, but yeah, I love this series. Shame I've only played one of the games. Did you know Dragon Quest XI released on the 3DS? I had to have it because this is the hero that I actually like playing in Smash Brothers. Do I own Dragon Quest XI in English on the Switch? No, of course not, but I just had to have it on 3DS because his Japanese voice is the same as Shindo Takuto from that game. Yeah, it's that again. And the final two. So the Great Ace Attorney, I actually played on the 3DS. That was the first fan patch of a game I ever played through. Before I ever got to do Inazuma 11 Go Galaxy, of course. But this kind of taught me how the world of 3DS modding worked, and I love it. I truly, truly love it. But the sequel is even better, and this one I obviously played on Switch when it released officially in English as The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, but this might be the best game in the entire Ace Attorney series. Now, I wish I was showing you like Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice right now, but they just never released the Ace Attorney games physically on 3DS in English. The only one that actually did get released in English was the crossover with Layton, and that got published because it's a Layton game. I still did beat both of the Ace Attorney games that were released for 3DS in full, but yeah, I should probably get a custom box for them or something. But here's all the games except for Inazuma 11 Go Galaxy and 1, 2, 3 because they are in use elsewhere. But yeah, there's really not much else I can get now before I can call this complete. There's just the one Yokai Watch Blasters game, another A Link Between Worlds, and maybe Fire Emblem Fates if I want to drop like £300 or something ridiculous. But yeah, man, never let me collect for any game system ever again. Hoped you liked it. I did it. It's all back in one place now. That took forever. Just like this video. So bye-bye.